Well, as I was saying before, I'm really glad to be sitting down here with you two. I appreciate you stepping up to the line and having a real and honest conversation with me. You're two of my most favorite people to work with, and we've all worked together over the past 20 years in different capacities. So this is pretty cool to sit down here and have this conversation with you guys. So, Chris, this is your first time on the line. Welcome. Great to have you here. Chris Meharg, Vice President of Legacy Electrical Services, and Ryan Groff, you've been on before with me.
Yep, returning again.
Yeah, you're trying it again.
Yeah.
You volunteered this time, so that's on you.
Pseudo volunteer.
Pseudo volunteered.
Yeah.
Glutton for punishment.
So, yeah. And you're the president of Legacy Electrical Services.
Correct.
So just wanted to sit down here with you guys and have a conversation about what you're doing and some of your origins, talking about what's going on with your organization and your company and where the future is, what you think is happening in the world that we live in related to trades and what you see as your part. So, yeah, really glad that you're here. So, Chris, let's just start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of where you come from? Like, how did you end up when you were in middle school? You're like, oh man, I want to be an electrician. That's really what I want to do.
Nope, no, I wanted to be a herpetologist.
Okay, so we have a rule here on the line that you're not allowed to use words that I don't know what they mean.
I wanted to study reptiles and amphibians. So
and
turtles,
what was it called? A
herpetologist.
A herpetologist.
Yep.
That sounds like an STD.
Yeah, not herpesologist.
Okay.
That's not why I looked into it, but I just always loved reptiles.
This is a great time for me to tell you guys that we don't edit anything on the line.
Right.
So everything
Understood.
that you've just said is going to be on air. So crap.
Yeah. So no, I wanted to be a herpetologist, but I started doing manual labor with my aunt when I was like 12 years old. She was a landscaper, and I got into working with my hands, digging holes, helping edge, gardens and mow lawns. So there was some work ethic. Now that only lasted like a summer. I mean, I was 12 or 13 years old. And then once I got to be 14, or maybe it was 16, I can't remember the legal ages at the time, but I went and worked summers at Farfield Company, which we all know is a pretty...
Well, we know, but those listening might not know. Farfield Company was a rather large...
Yeah, the Farfield Company was probably the largest electrical and mechanical contractor in the almost tri-state area at one point.
Yeah.
Their heyday
here in
was,
Pennsylvania.
Yep, in Lancaster. It's actually right. Their headquarters started out in Millway, over toward Rossville, and then it moved over to into Lidditz, which is right across from the Lancaster Airport. So.
It's really interesting because the Farfield even ties into some of Ryan and my origins in that the company that we used to work for was an offshoot of that company from years back.
Yep.
So that's kind of fascinating to me.
Yep. So anyway, I worked summers there and got through high school, went to college. That didn't work out for me, which is fine by me. But got back in.
What'd you go to college for?
I went for biomedical engineering. I realized, I love math, so that ties into where I'm at now. But I love math. I love solving problems. So that kind of represented the engineering portion of it. But then biomedical at the time, I think it was 2002 is when I first went to Pitt. It was a booming industry. Like it was brand new, it was cutting edge, and that's what I wanted to be a part of. And so got in, was accepted, did okay the first year, not stellar. Realized I loved all the math classes, all the engineering classes, hated chemistry, and didn't realize that biomedical engineering is almost 98% chemistry. So
That's a high percentage.
Yeah, by the second year, I was in free fall and decided that it wasn't for me and to bow out. I think I paid my parents back that loan. I think it took 7 years, but it was a good lesson. And I wouldn't change it again because I learned to live on my own. I was in a city. I made a lot of good friends, and I found out something that I didn't want to do and was able to recover pretty quickly.
I think that's interesting. I've talked with a lot of people and the fact that you don't need to be worried. I think when we're young, we're so worried about missing it and picking the wrong thing that we don't realize sometimes it's just about moving forward, and it can get interwoven into whatever you're doing. Like it's not lost.
Oh yeah.
If you started with something that you weren't doing, even in the trades, like if you started as a welder and you end up as an electrician, you don't lose that skill. You don't lose those things. So
Right.
I think that's
even between me starting as a landscaper and then getting to be honest, when I worked at the Farfield company, I was on the cable cutting floor. So I was in a warehouse.
I thought you were going to say I was on the cutting edge.
No, I was measuring things on a floor and cutting cable, labeling them, respooling them, and sending them out to job sites.
Okay.
Learned to drive my first stick shift truck out there, and I'm pretty sure I ground about 3 of the gears off. But
Nice.
That truck has long since died, so I don't think I'm on the hook for that one anymore. But even between,
Let's just be honest. Everybody used to work with is dead. So
yeah. Well, but just like you said, going through and doing different things in between landscaping and getting back to working with Legacy, I did poured concrete walls. I did other landscaping, became a manager at a landscaping company, Grandview Landscape. And then also, what else did I do? Oh, I worked at Weiser's
supermarket,
grocery store, over in Akron.
You would only know that if you lived in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania.
Very tiny, although they expanded to 3 other locations. They're doing pretty well. But Tim Weiser is who owned that, and he was great to work with. I made minimum wage at the time for the 2.5 years I worked there when I was in high school. That was $5.25 at the time.
Nice.
And I think I left making $5.35. Not because I was part time. I maybe got 12 or 16 hours a week if I was lucky.
Yeah.
So, but it was a great experience. Met a lot of good people there, and learned the fundamentals of just what a business does at the very basic level. Inventory comes in, you get it, you have to organize it, you list it, you sell it. There's a profit margin there, probably very tiny for him, but he ended up being very successful, and it was just another step, and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't where I wanted to go. So kept going.
So you ended up there, you went to the Farfield company, you were doing that stuff there. So this is the interesting thing about origin stories is everybody wants to know how you got where you are.
Okay.
And so you have the title of Vice President of Legacy Electrical Services. So my question is, when you were at the grocery store, were you thinking that's where you were going to be, or
no?
How did you? So how did you go from Farfield to becoming, and maybe skip ahead to you're working at Legacy? How do you become a VP and even working towards actual ownership in the company?
Well, I got to scale back a little bit then, because there was a big change, a sea change, I would say, in my life. I was 21, living with my best friend at the time. We had a year of just living as 2 bachelors. Had a good time. Once again, one of those things I would never.
This weekend at Bernie's vibe thing going on.
It was 1 year. We made a lot of mistakes. I made a serious mistake, I would say. Got in a little bit of legal situation. But once again, I would never take it back. And if I had to do it over again, maybe I'll be a little wiser about some of the things that I did.
Yeah.
But it was a very good opportunity for me to learn what not to do. But I did get into some trouble, and it forced me to make a decision of, okay, either I'm going to continue doing this, lifestyle of burning the candle at both ends. Basically, I was working, 10, 12-hour days, going out with friends every night, getting not into trouble, but it just wasn't a good setup. Waking up every morning at 5, rinse and repeat. There was nothing else that I was living for at the time. So got into some legal trouble. My best friend ended up moving out and going his way. And I had a decision. Either I would go back to just doing what I've been doing or do something different. And I decided to join the military. And I eventually landed on the Marines. And after 4 years of doing my full active tour for 4 years, decided.
So maybe this is inappropriate. I'm interrupting here, but if I remember your story a little bit, and this maybe is, I'm going to put him on the spot here, but you were presented with the decision, right?
I was. Yeah, it was either go to jail or join the military, and I decided to join the military.
Yeah.
Now with that,
I only share that because I don't think that you're very alone in that decision,
right.
And there's some people listening that maybe think since they were presented with that decision in life, that reflects where they can end up in life. And I don't think that's true.
Well, let me say, it wasn't like it was going to be this huge long term. It was going to be maybe a couple months at most. But
yeah, if you didn't want to talk about that, I apologize.
No, that's okay. No.
Brought that out.
I didn't know which direction
but we can't
were going
edit
with
it,
that.
so
nope,
sorry.
It's there.
Yeah.
Hey, I almost went to jail again. Anyway.
Did you just say again? Like that's a whole new again.
Yeah, that'll be that'll be the second time I come back.
Okay. Wow,
no.
he thinks he's coming back.
Maybe not. No, I decided to join the Marines. Well, it was actually, I was supposed to go into the Air Force. And then
We're all glad that didn't happen.
Well, and then another incident, I shouldn't say another incident, the incident happened. And that was when they said, we're not going to take you. But my friend was a recruiter for the Marines. He goes, we'll take you.
Yeah, the
I was
Marines
like,
take anybody.
all right, cool.
I almost joined the Marines too
Yeah.
because I couldn't join anything else.
Well, so I was lucky enough to be able to join them, and I was put into, did basic and all that. My MOS ended up being 5711, which is nuclear, biological, chemical, and radiological defense. Actually, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear defense. It changed from MBC, which is nuclear, biological, chemical, to CBRN. All these acronyms, no one cares. I was
You do though.
Yeah, I do. I
I've
love
literally
it.
been in meetings where people have referred to you as the Google.
Yeah, all right.
So yeah,
I am
because
the
you
Google.
love data and information and all the stuff that makes me sick.
So-
in a not nerdy way.
Right.
In a
yeah.
non-nerdy way,
course.
yes.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Totally not.
Yeah.
I geek out on this stuff. I was the gas mask guy. So
Yeah.
like I ran gas chambers to train military personnel to react in a contaminated area without getting injured or
Okay.
becoming a casualty. So that was awesome. I mean, 4 years of my life, it was fantastic. I think everyone should in some way, shape or form, do service to their country or for their fellow man, whatever that is. I'm not
You're
saying
really big on service though. I mean, you're involved in service even now.
Oh yeah.
In like you and your wife, I know you're both involved in like a rescue dog. Like you find search and rescue, right? You find people that
yeah.
are missing.
Yeah, we're both canine handlers for a local search and rescue team, Paxar, if anybody cares. Pennsylvania Canine Search and Rescue. And yes, my wife and I, we both handle our Belgian Malinois to go out and find people that
They're like no joke. They're
they're
serious.
they get lost in the woods. We go find them and
Wow.
terrify them, but we find them.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's more. I mean, yes, it is from a heart of service.
So you're in the Marines,
yeah.
you're serving, you're doing these things. Again, I ask, how do you become a VP of an electrical company?
Well, so got out of the military, needed a job, came back to Lancaster, to the local area, and through a connection from my wife, who I think it's, oh my gosh, I don't know, the sister of the owner of Grandview Landscape,
Okay.
used to watch my wife when she was little. So
Wow.
when she ended up watching our daughter, because we needed daycare to find jobs and all that, Brooke already had a job lined up. I didn't. We needed someone to watch the kids, so I go out and find a job. And after looking for a while, there was opportunities, but nothing that really fit the bill. And she was like, well, why don't you go work landscaping for my brother's company? I was like, all right, cool. So
That's hard work, man.
oh yeah, but it was, I had already done hard work. So
Right.
it was
Right.
kind of like, okay, I know this, I can do this. Well, did a month trial to see if I was a good fit. I was presented with, hey, you can run a team. You can, wow,
Wow.
I'm breaking the,
You're the first person ever in the history of the line to
I
have your
even
phone
turned
go
them
off.
off. Anyway,
Wow.
yeah.
That is so disrespectful.
So,
I'm just
I
messing
know.
with you.
Still, I had them both off. I swear. All right.
So, all right. So you become a landscaper.
Yep.
And then through a course of, we'll call it a series of unfortunate events,
Yeah.
you end up at an electrical company.
Legacy.
Working for them. Yeah, at Legacy. And when you were at Legacy when you started, did you have a plan or a vision to become a vice president?
No, I knew I wanted to be in the trades. I knew electrical because I had done it before. I knew construction because I had done it before. I know hard work. I knew dedication. So it was kind of like I wanted to be in the trades. I wanted to work with my hands to some capacity. But I also wanted something that, hey, going forward, I can stop working with my hands and help pass that information and the tools along to other people. Basically,
So this is a really unique situation for me because I'm asking these questions about his origins and his boss is sitting right here. And so What is it about him that made you feel like he was someone that you wanted to promote to the level that he's at, in what he is doing at Legacy? And what were the attributes and the things that he showed you that made you be like, this is someone that I can give a piece of the company to. This is someone that I can trust my people to.
This is like therapy.
Yeah.
Mostly patience.
Interesting.
And working with me.
That's,
I found it.
that's never been a problem.
Seriously.
No, his work ethic
Yeah.
has been fantastic. I could see that when we were working together way back at AirGuard or various jobs.
Yeah, you guys have been on some pretty crazy jobs together too. That's
wastewater treatment plants.
Yeah. He didn't shy away from tackling projects and tough tasks, and patience too. He has a lot of patience, and we deal with a lot of difficult people, whether employees or other contractors and other there's
lots of difficult situations.
Yeah. Not everybody sees eye to eye all the time, so we have a lot of disagreements to deal with. So,
you as a company, or you just mean the industry overall?
Just, the world overall, really.
Yeah, that's true.
It's endemic, but I think construction. I don't know if I can speak to there being more than most industries as having challenges and difficulties, but we're dealing with a lot of moving parts and a lot of people. Yeah. So it just there's naturally a lot to deal with there.
Well, I know that you both have done some project management, and I know you were a project manager for years at Legacy, Chris. But construction is one of those interesting things. I had a friend, and this is not a jab at manufacturing, but I had a friend who was a project manager in a manufacturing plant, and he talked about, the challenges and how he had to manage the project. And we had a whole discussion about how different it is in construction because you're building the plant, you're not in the plant. So you have to deal with weather. You have to deal with people who maybe weren't on your team last time, and now they're on your team, and different trades. And
right.
Yeah. So
yeah, there's a lot going on.
So I guess I'm about to segue to, that I asked 2 questions on this podcast, and I'm about to segue into that first question about what's your one thing. But I want to play a little, I want to flip it a little bit here. And I'm going to ask you, Chris, in a minute, what is one thing that you can't live without? But Ryan, for you as the president of Legacy, if Chris is your VP, then he's your number 2. He's your guy that's there next to you while you're running the company, while you're making decisions, while you're doing things. What is one thing, your number one thing about him that you view as an asset in your organization and what you're doing?
One thing, jeez.
It doesn't need to be the most important thing, but what's the thing that comes to your mind?
I think it would be his willingness to work through things with me.
Yeah.
We're popping into each other's office quite a bit with I'm not sure what to do with this, or this came up, or this happened, and just having someone there that will listen to the issues that you're dealing with. And
how important do you think soundboarding is? I mean, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. And not just soundboarding, but soundboarding with a common objective and trust.
Yeah.
That we're working together in the same to the same end in the same direction.
Yeah.
But yeah, soundboarding is huge because I'm None of us are an island unto ourselves, or none of us operate in a vacuum. We have to take in other viewpoints and perspectives, and we can't all hold it all.
Yeah.
We can't have all the answers all the time. So
do you feel like, so I knew you when you were an apprentice, and we worked in the same company, which was a great company that we worked for. But do you think that when you were in the field, did you think that the guys in the office needed someone to talk to, or did you feel like they just had it all together?
At that point, I thought they just had it all together, and they knew.
I think that's a common misconception.
They just knew what they were doing
of reality.
Yeah,
is that we tend to think, because we don't see it and we don't know, we tend to think that people just know what they're doing. And what you're talking about, your number one thing with Maharg is that you have someone that you trust, that you can soundboard off of, that you can talk with, and with intention, with an objective. And I would think that a big part of that too is, and I'm speaking also for myself, a big part of that too is when you have that situation, someone that is going to tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not.
I was going to say, like, you also have somebody soundboard that is willing to say, hey, I don't think that's the way to do it.
Yeah. We don't want an emperor has no clothes
Right.
situation. Yeah.
And
sure.
that's based on a lot of trust that, we've all experienced. So, Ryan, I seek you out whenever there's anything going on that I'm like, wow, this is something critical that we really need to discuss. And a lot of times I'm looking for, is this the right way? Is this, the correct way? Or am I looking at it in a completely opposite direction? So,
yeah.
But yeah.
So Chris, let's talk about your one thing. So this is a softball. Ryan's was a little bit more difficult because I actually threw something different out there.
I mean,
but what is one thing that you can't live without, that you have to have? Like, if you had to have one thing, what is that one thing?
Talking like business?
Can't be a person. I mean, obviously
business related. Are we talking like, hey, I need water?
A tool or a piece of gear?
All right, that's what I was thinking.
Wow.
Well, it's important to differentiate. It's been different things over different times.
Did I tell you guys he's a detailed guy?
Super detailed.
So annoying to people like me.
For now, now in my current role, and even since I was a project manager, even a site super, I could not live without my little black book. It's my brain. And for those who don't know, it's a moleskin.
It's not a book of girls' phone numbers, if that's what you were thinking.
It's like an 8-inch moleskin notebook, and I do bullet journaling in there now.
Okay.
Which it does. It becomes my memory and my brain day to day, and I have all of them saved. There's a stack that's maybe a foot tall at this point. I think I've been here. We're going to be going on 7 years soon, most recently. And I'm just about to transfer into a new one tomorrow. Well,
wow.
Monday. But it's without that, like, I feel scattered. So yeah, the notebook, because it keeps track of everything I've done, because I can't remember everything.
Yeah.
Unlike, you might think I'm Google. I can't remember everything.
I think it actually expands your brain to write things down and get them out of your brain. I actually think that helps you be able to retain more information.
It's kind of soundboarding with yourself.
Yeah.
You're organizing your day, and it's at the same time you're organizing, you're setting goals, you're crossing them off. So you're getting that satisfaction. And then you're lining up your next day by things you didn't get done or things that popped up at the last minute.
I think it's Sherlock Holmes, which is not a real person, obviously, but in the books, he talks about, information in your brain is a finite space. And so I can remember reading the Sherlock Holmes and people wanted to talk to him about, the cosmos or something like that. And he's like, nah, finite space. I'm not going to put that in my brain and take up that information. And when you write it down and you put it in a book, one, you can go back to it, and then you can keep moving, and you're not consuming all of that space, because It is true. We do have finite space of what we can manage in our brains.
And it's a real tool I use. It's not like it's just in case. I'll pretty much at least once a week, somebody saying, hey, at this point in time, a year ago, did this happen?
Yeah.
I have no idea, but let's go look at this. I find the date range, look through it. Oh, it looks like I sent an email here. Let's go check the emails. I can link things together, and you're basically stringing your clues together to say, this is the conclusion we came to. That's what we said. That's what we're saying.
Okay.
And so it's confirming what we've done. So that's my tool. Thank you.
Yeah. Notebook.
Notebook.
Little black book.
Mm-hmm. Something I need to work on.
Something you need to work on?
Yeah.
We have a list. Chris and I will talk to you later.
All right.
Yeah. So you guys are managing a electrical contracting firm here in the Susquehanna Valley, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Ryan, what type of electrical construction do you guys do?
General commercial construction.
Okay.
Some industrial. We've done some warehouses, some multifamily apartment type buildings, a bit of retail space. Okay. Pretty varied.
So I'm curious, what is your favorite thing about what you do at Legacy? Seriously.
My favorite thing would be working together with people to solve problems, I guess.
Is that something that you feel like in the trades and in construction happens a lot, that we have to be solving problems?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Chris? What's your favorite thing about working with people at Legacy?
About working with people at Legacy or just in general?
Yeah, you narrowed it down.
Yeah.
I did narrow it down with you. I apologize. I should have expected that you two would correct me.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about working at Legacy? There we go. Is that acceptable to you?
Yeah.
Okay. You're welcome.
So, there's always problems that we're trying to solve. I love helping to solve problems. And what I like most about working at Legacy is it's never just monolithic decision make. It's
In the big words. Like, seriously.
Singular.
No silos. No silos here.
There's no silos. There we go. Yeah. I like that one. So, we're not going to include the entire company on every single decision that's made.
Right.
But we do reach down to sometimes the guy that just started in the past year and be like, hey, this is going on. What happened here? What was your thought process? Then it comes up to the management team, and then it comes up to the executive team. And there's a good communication line set up. Now, it's not perfect. I mean, never are. Coming from the military, we try to have that constant feedback, and it would from the bottom up to the top, from the top down to the bottom. It doesn't work perfectly every time.
Yeah, we could always process things
right
more quickly and more thoroughly, but yeah.
But I feel like there's always an open conversation to be had. And what I like specifically about Legacy that I've seen from other places I've worked, it's quickly and direct. If there's an issue, if there's a big problem, it's quickly and direct. Sometimes we don't communicate everything because sometimes they don't raise to the same level.
Right.
But but with the actual construction part of it out in the field, there's always installation issues that come up. Like, hey, is this to code? Hey, is it okay if we tweak this? Is it okay if we do that, even though the drawings say this? And the answer is typically no. Do what the drawings say.
Yeah.
But there are times when we as electricians and professionals have to go beyond just what's on the drawings and be like, okay, is that really correct, or do we find an error?
Yeah.
So, and I don't think there's a whole lot of, I don't know how to say this. It's not pride, but no one's taking all the credit for that. Like, we work as a team.
Yeah. Team is pretty important to you guys. I know that.
Yeah, we work as a team, and we succeed as a team. Right. So we don't pin it on Ryan and Chris did this today, and Ryan went and knocked that out. I like to try to give as much as I can to the field teams and to the management teams that make this go.
I think that's something that's really important because in the trades and in construction, ego is, I don't know the stats on it, but sometimes I think it might be bigger than it is in other industries. And the importance of the way that we say things. And I've always heard you guys say Legacy, or you refer to the team or you refer to the company, not because you're not wanting to give one individual credit, but you view that it's not one individual ever that does it. And so I find that really interesting. What do you think the biggest problem is that you guys face in the trades world right now?
Biggest problem, probably skilled tradespeople.
Finding the willing team members to grow.
So what's more important in a team member at Legacy? Is it experience, or is it like you talked about your work ethic earlier, Chris, and that I feel like, and I can't really, I'm not wanting to put words in your mouth, Ryan, but you kind of alluded to his work ethic, and so did you, Chris, being a big part of your journey to vice president, being to what someone would call a high-level leadership role in an organization. And so my question is, to you guys, is it more about experience or is it more about work ethic?
It's definitely more about work ethic.
Tell me why.
And willingness.
Willingness.
Yeah. Because you can learn if you're a hard worker, if you have a strong work ethic and you have a willingness to learn and to do whatever you need to do to get the job done.
Yeah.
There's really no limit to where that can take you, and you're going to be an important team member wherever you find yourself.
Yeah.
And the experience will come. That just takes time.
I was less than a glorified installer when I first came to work for Legacy. I was subbed from a landscaping company. I knew how to wire up receptacles, light fixtures, bend a little bit of EMT, run MC, but I didn't know how to do everything. I didn't know the load calculations and all that. I didn't really know much about the code. I just did what I was told.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the experience, but I had the drive to do it. So, and you guys recognize that, or Legacy recognized that as I ping pong back and forth to become a project manager here and eventually vice president. So the work ethic and determination and the ability to work as a team is more important than any experience. I mean, I know plenty of very skilled tradesmen that I don't want to work with because they don't have those other qualities.
So that's a really good segue for me. I wanted to ask you guys about your culture because I know that's something that you've invested heavily in, promoted. And so I'm going to put you on the spot, see if you both can answer. But I know that you guys have core values and you have this around here statements that you guys use to promote your culture. Brian, what are your core values? It's all right. I'm sure no one in your organization
I am so close to the book. It's right over there now.
I'm blanking.
You're blanking.
Yeah.
I think I got two of them.
You got two? Let's see what they are.
I think honesty.
Honesty? Okay.
Integrity.
I am cheating. I grabbed this before we started. I'm going to say them and you guys are going to be sick.
I probably missed it.
I'm just having
for anybody from Legacy that's listening, just remember that your fearless leaders did not know the answer to these, but your around here statement book that you have says that your values here at Legacy are dedication, number one, honesty, and efficiency.
The efficiency.
Yeah.
Efficiency, not deficiency.
Yeah, efficiency, not deficiency.
I think integrity was one of the old ones.
Integrity is not on the list.
No,
so
it's not.
You do not have a value of integrity
Just,
at all. So, but honesty might cover that a little bit. What do those things mean to you guys?
That means the difference between success and something other than success, whether it's failure or just mediocrity. That's where our commitment to do a job and do it well comes from. That's where our commitment to work together comes from. That's where that's how we strive for excellence in what we do.
So I'm going to ask you the same question in a minute, Chris, but I want to kind of prepare you both. So I have this book here that you guys have that you give out to your teams, and it has 12 around here statements, you call them, in the book. And so I'm going to want to ask you, I know that you guys have invested heavily in culture and that you really believe in that, and this is a big part of that. But before we get into that, Chris, what are those core values of honesty, dedication, and efficiency? I had to think there. I didn't want to reread it. But, what do they mean to you?
I mean, dedication is not giving up. I mean, that's the perseverance. That's doing what it takes to get the job done.
That's hard sometimes.
It is.
That is really hard.
But I mean, we've all been there. We've all been down in, the utility trenches. We've all been down in sub basements. We've all been on, in attic spaces or.
I can remember the longest shift I've ever worked in my life. It was 33 hours.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure that your body physically changes after 24 hours. I don't know.
Yeah, you start hallucinating.
But, yeah. Well, it's good. I was only doing high voltage work, so it wasn't a big deal. But when you say dedication, it's like that is hard to push through.
It's doing what it takes. Honesty. I mean, everyone understands that, but we kind of take it to another level where it's honesty even when it's difficult. Because sometimes being honest either to yourself or to a client or to your team is hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, and what's the other one?
Honesty, dedication, and efficiency.
Efficiency. Okay. Efficiency was one thing that I know. We both know Nathan. He harps all the time about it. It's making our work processes as streamlined as possible.
So let me drill down on that. Like, what does that mean to make your processes as streamlined as possible?
Well, it's difficult when you're constantly teaching people.
Yeah.
And everyone uses that excuse. Oh, I can't train these guys. We got to get this job done. I don't have enough time to really pass it on. But training is efficiency. So training people how to do the job right once and know what they need to use to get that job done. That's efficiency. And then replicating that over and over and over again across your entire team so that everyone knows how to do the same process and learns a little bit about all the work that we do so that they're not blindsided when they have to do that type of work. And, we have constant work processes where it's like, oh, well, we can run this faster with this product, but it costs more. Or, well, we can throw two guys at it and get it done in 3/4 of the time, or one guy might take, twice as long as that. We don't know.
Right.
So finding the efficiency balance is a constant feedback. We're constantly readjusting that. But to me, it's making sure that our management team is ensuring that everyone in the field doing the work has what they need to keep going. So that's our efficiency. And once again, those processes are constantly changing because either we're trying to make them more efficient or something like a problem in the world arises and these products are no longer available, or everyone has to stay home for the next 2 months, or a supply chain got cut off. These things never happen.
Yeah.
Right.
We're constantly hit with things that would
detract from our efficiency.
Take away for efficiency. Yeah.
So, I mean, we have those three listed because that's kind of what defines legacy and our work ethic.
So tell me about your around here statements and your culture related to that. I mean, you have this little book here.
Yep.
And I see that
we have 12 distinct around here statements which help to guide how we act, how we treat others, how we approach our work, and they're a cultural manifesto, sort of, for how we operate as a company and what we expect of everyone that works here, from the guy that was hired yesterday up to Chris and I. These are principles that we abide by, and they're written out. There's 12 of them, which just works out for one for each month. So we stress one each month, they're all universally applicable, and we focus on them all year, but we focus especially on one each month just to kind of keep refreshing them in our minds. And
can you give me an example of one? Like, do you have a favorite one that stands out to you?
we find solutions, not problems. So just a way of thinking that we don't focus on the problems, because that's not constructive. That doesn't help anyone to just look around and bemoan all the problems, because they're always going to be there.
Right.
But we focus on the solutions and finding ways to fix the problems.
That's good.
So that's one of 12. And
How about you? Do you have one that stands out to you?
Yeah, I like
That's different
Yeah,
than his?
yeah. I like around here we communicate. The reason I like that one so much is because it not only applies to communication with our teams, with our clients, with each other. It applies to all of those statements in there. We are already communicating them to our team. So it's the direct link that goes into everything else that we have. I mean, every time that we have, and we don't have it often, but if we have a personality clash between our team, like team to team, or between us and another contractor, we use these statements to resolve conflict. And the only way to do that is through communication. So, and if we have an issue with someone that's maybe making a mistake, or we see a trend of, hey, you're not acting like you normally do, the around here's help us identify where those deficiencies are coming from. And we can approach the team from a very, not a neutral stance, but from a stance of, hey, you know what we expect. We expect it of ourselves. This is what we see. Can we talk about it and see if we can fix it? So it's a good moderator for conflict.
Do you guys hire and fire based off of your around here statements?
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. That was pretty definite.
Yeah.
Why is that so important?
How do we know? How can we be? How can we have a distinct culture? How can we be different from anywhere else if we don't enforce, look for, cultivate, and enforce our cultural statements?
What are some of the ways that you say cultivate, which I find to be an interesting statement? What are some of the ways that you continue to cultivate that? Like my wife has a cut flower farm, and every spring I have to recultivate the ground for her to be able to plant what she wants to plant. I'm not allowed to plant any of the flowers, but I'm allowed to tear up the dirt. So how do you guys do that, and why does that matter so much?
Well, we
Again, we don't edit anything, so this is great.
Yeah.
I'm loving this.
We're gonna have to talk about that.
You need to have splice points.
Yeah.
Marriage joints.
Well, please stop. I don't know what
We
you're
have-
saying over there, but please stop.
On the leadership side, we have monthly meetings with our leadership team,
Okay.
where we talk about that month's around here, and just discuss some of the practicals and how we're going about stressing that and encouraging that around here.
That's good.
And we try to have intentional conversations with everyone in the company. I mean, when we first hire, every new hire gets one of those books, even before they're hired. When they're in the interview process, they get one of those books to look over, to know what they might be getting into here, and make sure that they're going to be okay with abiding by those around here's and developing that in themselves. And then it just it's in conversations. It's in the fabric of how we operate.
Chris, how would you say that you see that you guys are implementing that into your culture?
Well, it's every time someone brings up any issue, we look at our around here's and identify that specific situation. If someone's late, we have something in there that says, "Hey, around here we're punctual." We show up ready for work. It's a good way to just quickly identify something, and it's constant. It doesn't have to take
I think that one is actually one of my favorites.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
But we can identify it on the first time it happens.
Interesting.
We don't have to let it fester or become a norm or let everything go lax.
So to someone who's aspiring to leadership, you talk about that. We can identify it on the first time that it happens. And you even referenced it too, Ryan, just the importance of intentional conversation. That probably takes work. And so I guess my question would be, someone who's aspiring and wanting to enter leadership, what would you say to them about the importance of actually having intentional conversations, talking about it the first time? Like,
it has to happen.
Interesting.
We deal with it constantly, and it's not just in our team, it's outward looking as well. And I use this on myself. Like I identify when I'm deficient in those around here's, and that hurts.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be a leader, you have to be able to identify the problem, but you also can't piss everybody off whenever you identify it. So you have to be tactful with it. You have to be patient. You have to come at it from an angle of being constructive and not just tearing somebody down. So to become a leader, you have to be able to identify a problem and then bring a solution to it, not just delete it or get rid of it. So I think that's something that does make Legacy different, is that, we will work with someone as long as we see effort and improvement. So
is that an employee? Is that a client? Is that
I think that's just in general as a company.
Interesting.
I mean, if we're not improving.
Are you telling me that you fire clients just like you do employees? Am I not allowed to ask that question?
When we need to,
Yeah. And those needs are around aligning. Like, I'm not trying to lead you. I'm just trying to ask, a lot of people don't understand the statement firing clients.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean? And what would be the purpose in that? What would be the reasoning in that? Why? I realize that was the pre-podcast, but
yeah. It comes down to value structure, value system.
Okay.
And I think that sometimes even among companies, that value structure can be incompatible. And if we have a client that just insists on putting their own needs first, regardless of the circumstances, we have to be able to find some mutual benefit in our business relationships, where we provide a service and they provide payment for it, or there is mutual benefit. But there are times when a client might have such a strong focus on something that goes against our values or our interests as a company that we just can't work together.
What would you say to that, Chris?
I mean, we need to be able to work with people that are going to work with us as a team. I mean, just like we put together our own team for our electrical company for Legacy, we have to do the same in our relationship portfolio with other companies. So do we hire and fire based on our value system and our around here's? Absolutely. I mean, if we can't have honest communication, if we can't have trust with each other, if we can't be able to soundboard with each other without feeling like we're going to be attacked or thrown under the bus for speaking honestly or openly, then that becomes detrimental to our business. And we have a lot of families that depend on this business to keep going, and anything that threatens that maliciously or without regard to our need to exist, then we'll separate a relationship based on that.
Interesting. Whether it's an employee, whether it's a client, it's a pretty big statement. Well, like I said in the beginning, I like to ask two questions. And before I'm just kind of prepping you guys for that. I'm going to ask you that in a minute here. But say I'm a young person and I want to get into the trades, or say I'm an old person and I want to get into the trades. What is the number one thing that you guys value in a team member? Don't all go at once. That's confusing.
I want to see eagerness.
Eagerness.
Yes, I want to see.
Tell me more. What do you mean by that?
I want somebody that's coming in, wanting to learn, wanting to push into doing things. When I would get on a job site when I was younger, I didn't really know a whole lot when I first started out. But if someone asked me, "Hey, do you know how to do this? Does it have instructions, or can I look it up on my phone real quick?" Sure.
They had phones like that when you were younger? Okay, I was just going to say, let's not.
It just had internet, and I think it was Dogpile or something like that. I think that was the search engine at the time. This was before Google was even that popular. So, no, but as long as I knew that there was information to do something, I was like, yeah, I can do that. I mean, a go-getter attitude. Somebody that just comes to work and is like, hey, I'm going to go make this happen. Point and click is good from the get-go. Because if I can put something in a certain situation, be like, hey, can you do this? Yes, I can. Okay. And if they say, hey, I just need to be shown and then I'll do it. Cool. That's eagerness too. Show me how to do it and I'll do it. Okay, let's do this. So I want eagerness. I want somebody that's excited to be doing something with their life.
That's good. How about you, Mr. President?
Well, certainly, as we had talked earlier, strong work ethic, and
there we go. We got lights.
All right,
and
sensors,
and a willingness to learn is along the lines of eagerness, and a willingness to ask questions.
Yeah.
An understanding that there's a lot to learn, and the only way to do that is to get to ask questions and to learn from other people. So, right. And then, I mean, an eagerness, like Chris said, an eagerness to learn, an eagerness to grow, an eagerness to work. I
think, like with eagerness, like it's almost like an attitude of being excited about what you're doing, and if you don't have that excitement or that drive in you, then what are you doing it for? So,
Patrick Lencioni writes a really good book called The Ideal Team Player, and I love it because he writes these fables, and in this book, it's a fable about construction and a construction business. So I find it very interesting. But in that book, they have these three things that they say that they want in an ideal team player, and they want them to be humble, hungry, and smart. And I think what you guys are talking about there is some of those aspects. The importance of humility, being hungry, eager to go after something, to strive for something, and smart. Sometimes I relate that to emotional intelligence, where it's like it doesn't mean that you're a rocket scientist, but maybe you have enough of a brain to know when to say something or when not to say something.
You can read the room.
Yeah, which not everyone can. So, well, as we're coming to the close here, I want to ask these last questions of you both. And so, Ryan, I'll start with you. since you're more experienced at this, since you've been on the podcast here before. What is a mistake that you have made that you're willing to share with others that you've learned from, that might benefit others that they could learn from as well?
Well, one big mistake that I've made and that I continue to make is just feeling like I have to do everything myself.
Ooh.
And learning how to work with others and and to delegate as a leader, to delegate and actually encourage and empower others to do stuff that I would tend to feel like I have to do myself.
That's good.
And sometimes there are things that I need to do, and sometimes there are things that others can do. And but the bottom line is I'm not by myself, and I need to not feel like it rests on me to get done.
You guys really seem to talk a lot about team, about it being not by yourself. I mean, Chris, you've said that. You've talked about that. You're talking about that even in that right there.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that's something that even translates through every aspect of your company, no matter what your role is, not feeling like you have to do everything yourself. I think that's a quintessential tradesman view. That's like, oh, I have to fix this. And we get, you talked earlier about silos. We get in these silos where we don't talk with other people. We don't share the load, and we have the burden on ourselves. And that's often how we end up overwhelmed and even fail. So, yeah. How about you, Chris? What's a mistake that you've made?
Oh, man. There's a lot
Ryan
to go through.
had given me a list earlier.
I was going to say,
of your
like,
mistakes.
Can I cheat sheet that?
Yeah.
I mean, no, there's a lot.
We could call your wife. We could see if she has a list.
Oh, I'm sure there's a list. Let's see. I mean, with project management and managing teams, sometimes I assume that people get it when they don't. And that's not, sometimes it's glaring because we get to a certain point and it's like, man, I made the wrong decision to, think that this was going well, or that someone was doing what I assumed they were doing without checking properly. So I know that's a general mistake, but I do trust people a lot, and I hope that they're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, and that I'm not just talking about employees or
right.
So for me, let's see, I'm trying to find something specific, but it might not be a good thing to talk about with assuming other people. But that's a fault of leadership.
Yeah.
Is that we assume something's going in a certain direction, but it's really not, because we're either not getting our boots dirty enough, because, I've been recently called a carpet walker.
Yeah. I heard that the other day. Carpet walker.
Yeah. So, and I'll own that. Like, yeah, sure. I do from time to time, but I still get out there and try to be on some job sites, probably not as much as I should be, I think you're out on job sites a lot more than I am. So, but without really keeping a pulse on what's going on out on the sites, we lose our managerial touch. Yeah. So that's true. One of the biggest problems that I'm facing, and it's an ongoing mistake, is not getting out with the team enough. So, but if you want like a specific mistake, I'm sure I can find.
I want a specific mistake.
Oh, geez, I don't know.
Detailed, specific.
We can look through like the past requisition forms from like this past week. I'm sure I made a mistake and ordered too much of something, or told somebody to get 1,000 feet of something that was wrong.
I find it interesting what you both are talking about, just even for me, and to not leave you guys in the lurch. A mistake for me is that very same thing, assuming that people know what I'm thinking. When you talk about getting out there, getting your boots dirty, and assuming that I've communicated well, this is what I expect, because it's in my mind already.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'm not clear and definitive in what I tell people. And then I'm frustrated then when they don't do what I expect, but I don't know how they were supposed to know what I expected. And you kind of get on the treadmill of work and you don't realize that you end up doing that. And I have to constantly kind of come back to that and be like, oh, I need to take the time to explain this. And I get kind of impatient because I feel like I once had a guy explain it to me like this. He goes, I feel like you're on the highway and you're going down the highway and I'm on the on-ramp and you're not giving me a chance to actually catch up and get on the highway with what you're explaining. And it was pretty convicting to me because it was a very good explanation of the reality of where I was at. And it's really not fair to ask people to go from 0 to 60 and not allow them to do that in the proper way. And then for me not to slow down so that I can be like, hey, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. This is what I see. So I really appreciate you guys sitting down and having this conversation, on this like sleepy afternoon here. We're kind of talking at the end of a work week and whatnot. And what is your vision for where you guys want to see Legacy go? Where do you want to see Legacy in the next 20 years?
The biggest thing I want to see is just continued growth.
Yeah. Growth for growth's sake, or why growth?
No, growth for impact and for teaching and training people, just for the ability to interact with and affect more people.
That's good.
And I like bigger and bigger jobs, so continuing to grow our capabilities.
Yeah.
In that regard.
How about you, Mahar?
So I want to see a Legacy Electric North Carolina division.
That's right. We had
on the Outer Banks.
We have talked about that.
Let's do a line. It's ironically close to the beach.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Just curious about that. Yeah.
No,
beach
but
bums.
I share that. Like, I want to see the continued growth. I want to see the jobs keep getting bigger. But really, when we talk about winning jobs and getting more work and growing the company, what we're really talking about is training people to do the jobs. Because without having that management team that knows how to do the work, that's passing the information on to the incoming employees to do that work and then to eventually become the managers, we're not doing a service to the industry. We're depleting it otherwise. So our big goal is to train people to do electrical work and do it well.
I think that's something that's really significant. And Ryan, I can maybe want to push on this a little bit with you because you have a vision Chris, you were an employee and you're working towards being an owner.
Well, and I didn't really get to finish. I know because we kept going on to more stuff.
Sure.
No, I kind of drew it out, but you asked me how I came to be vice president. Well, one was working under phenomenal executive leadership and owners such as yourself and Ryan. And
I just threw up a little bit in my mouth.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. You're welcome. No, but I did come here first as just a worker, then a site lead, then the second time, or maybe it was that the third time I came back, it was to become an assistant project manager to work directly with Josh when he was, at Legacy's helm. And then as I learned that role, I got to know Ryan much better and started to kind of become a manager, then learned the estimating and design team work.
Yeah.
So it was small steps that, if you were to ask me like, hey, how many steps did it take? I have no idea.
Right.
And did it take a long time? It doesn't seem like it took a long time.
Yeah. Our definition of time at that end of life and this end of life is very different.
Well, and I look back and I'm like, so the most recent time that I've been here is going on 7 years. So it was March of 2018.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're at 6, we're going on 7. in that time frame, I went from being estimator / assistant project manager to vice president of the company. And if you're only in your 20s and you're saying, "Oh, it took him 6 years to do that," yeah, that's not a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, we're about halfway through our life expectancy right now, and we're already at this level. And that's an attainable goal for anybody that has the determination, the honesty, and the efficiency to get it done.
That's good. That's good. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for stepping up to the line. Thank you for what you're doing. I think you're some of the most qualified individuals that I've ever worked with, and I'm glad to be sitting here having this conversation with you. I know that you guys care about your people, you care about the future, and you care about the past and the way that you leave it. So for that very reason, I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and I hope those listening are finding some value in the things that you're sharing with them. So thanks for stepping up to the line today with me, gentlemen.
Yeah,
Thanks for having
good
us.
to be here.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.